Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. This week, we're going to discuss a few things Kevin Stitt has been doing in the last couple of weeks. One, appointing a new liaison between the tribes and the government and everything else, and also spending $825,000 a month to stop fentanyl. So Kevin Stitt has been in the news this week on a couple of things that he's been trying to advance. One, he appointed a guy named Wes Nofire, who is a Cherokee citizen, to be the Oklahoma Native liaison to the federal government. Now, there's a couple of things to note with this. One, Wes Nofire ran for chief and lost in the Cherokee Nation pretty miserably to the guy who's holding the seat now, Hoskins, and basically was a council member for about a year and a half. After that, he tried to even run for the Senate seat that was given up and lost that as well. The thing about Wes Nofire to note is he is absolutely against what the McGirt decision did, which he's totally against that. And Kevin Stitt even came out saying, I like him because he doesn't think that there should be any race or nationality restrictions or anything else, and that's what these Native Americans want, right? The Native Americans, they want their own tribe, they want their own government to recognize their own race. Oh my God, the Cherokee race, that's where they're at. They're racist, and that's where Governor Stitt immediately was to go with that. See, because he's having this big old battle with the tribes that really he lost already. Lost it a couple of years ago when he started this thing. It's exactly what happened. And I like to call it Stitt's last stand, where he actually got his butt handed by the 35 tribes in the state of Oklahoma when he tried to renegotiate the gaming compacts and failed miserably at them. So basically, this is kind of a retaliatory effort on Stitt's part. He's going to get this guy, Wes Nofire, to represent the tribes to the federal government, and none of the tribes like this guy or want him to represent them. But you know what he does? He furthers Stitt's agenda, and that's what this guy does. And he also is he's a Stitt loyalist. He's been a Stitt loyalist. He's also, like I said, he's come out against the McGirt decision, come out against it, talking about how he doesn't believe that the nations and the tribes should have their own racial identity. We should just be Americans and forget all that stuff. So basically, this guy is one of the biggest tribal sovereignty opponents, and he's within the Cherokee Nation. So that's where we're at with this, and mostly it's just a big retaliatory thing. There's a big grievance there. I mean, the guy obviously lost. He wasn't popular with the council. He wasn't there long. He couldn't get anything done. Nobody really likes him. He also ran for another thing in Mays County, lost that. No one really likes this guy. So the only opportunity he has left is Stitt. I mean, Stitt loves it because, see, none of the natives like this guy. So this makes him a perfect guy to put in there for Kevin Stitt, who really wants to stick it to the tribes for sticking it to him. See, because this all goes back to those gaming compacts. See, Stitt had this grand plan. I'm the negotiator. I'm this big-time, big-wig billionaire businessman, and I'm going to have the tribes go to my will. And it didn't happen. And then he tried to play hardball with the tribes, and what did happen? Well, the tribes played hardball right back. The thing about Kevin Stitt is he's a weak person, so he couldn't really take it, couldn't handle it, and he lacks the strategic ability to actually put together a plan and fight someone. So he really lost. I mean, and as bad as Custer did at his last stand. He really, really did. And so now Stitt's coming at them in any way he can, denying a flyover on Highway 9 to a casino because that might benefit the tribes, going after him any way he can, doing all kinds of stuff because he really doesn't like the tribes. And I thought it was really interesting. Labor Day weekend in Tahlequah, they had the Cherokee Day Festival. And one of the things they did was a native dance. And in the native dance, they have a clown come out. Well, the clown was dressed in a suit with diaper and a clown wig and a face of Kevin Stitt with a deal that said Indian card on it. Because, he's a tribal member of the Cherokee Nation. Of course, he has no Cherokee blood in him. This was a fraud set up by his ancestors, and so you just know, hey man, this is just hereditary for the guy to be a fraud, to be a coward, to be dishonest, to be deceitful. And so that's what you have with Kevin Stitt, especially on this deal here, where he's going after the tribes, and now he's getting a guy named Wes Nofire to represent the tribes federally when none of them want him to be their liaison. None of them want this. None of them want this, so Kevin Stitt's just doing this as a power play, as a petty little get back and retaliation. That's what he's doing. Now for the next part of what Kevin Stitt has been doing. Kevin Stitt has been spending up to and over $825,000 a month to send our National Guard to the Texas border to stop fentanyl from coming in. Now, there's a lot of issues with this. One, this is blatant pandering. This is blatant partisan pandering. This is blatant playing politics and using our military and government money to do it. He's not using his own money. He's more than willing to spend the state's money to further his own political ambitions. And that's what this is. It's Kevin Stitt spending near $1 million a month to further his own political ambition. And that's what this totally is. So he's sending our National Guard down there to Texas border, spending $825,000 a month, thereabouts, to keep fentanyl from coming in. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a strategic moron like Kevin Stitt. I can actually think of several better ways to spend $825,000 a month on the fentanyl problem we have, which is a problem. It's something that the legislature ought to address when they come back in session. It's things that we all ought to be looking into, and our communities and community leaders should be looking into to help our citizens to avoid getting this on the street, getting it off the street, keeping our citizens safe. That's what we should be looking into. And I can think of a lot better things to do with $825,000 a month to keep fentanyl from coming in. Education, all kinds of other things we could do. Law enforcement, health care, all kinds of different things I can think of to do to spend that money than to send our guard to the border in a political stunt. Wasting taxpayer money. Because that's what this is. It's a waste of taxpayer money. There you go. Talk about the federal fumbles that James Langford wants to put out. Here's an Oklahoma fumble for you, as Kevin Stitt spends $825,000 a month to keep our National Guard down there at the border for a political photo op, pretty much. But that's what he did. As soon as this happened, he had to run down there and look all tough and everything. He was like, yeah, I'm a guardsman, you know, and we're protecting the border, and we're keeping this fentanyl from coming in. But really, they're not doing that. Even when they talk to the guardsmen, they're saying, we're just trying to keep everybody safe. Well, what about the fentanyl? Well, we're not doing that. We're just making sure people are staying safe, and we're spending a bunch of money to do that. I can think of, for a safety campaign, $825 a month. That's what we're spending on this. So that's what we have with Kevin Stitt and his circus going on right here with hiring Wes Nofire to be the liaison of the Native Americans when none of them want it. When the chiefs of several tribes have already put out statements saying how Nofire is not a friend of sovereignty for the tribes. He's not a friend of the tribes. He's just not. Even though he is a tribal member, you can always find one or two that's just statistical anomalies that just aren't going to go with the grain. And here you are, he's totally against it. And Kevin Stitt wants to tout his experience of what? Being on a council for a year and a half? That's it. That's all this guy has done. And ran for political office ever since then. He hasn't really done much. But Kevin Stitt really wants to doll this guy up and put him out there as a liaison for the tribes. It's probably going to end in disaster like Kevin Stitt usually does. And here we are. Kevin Stitt. We haven't talked about him a whole lot because, there's just not a lot going on right now in politics in Oklahoma. Legislature's out of session, it's an off-election year, not a whole lot going on. So typically, Ryan Walters has been able to carry the day. But right now we got a couple of stories on Kevin Stitt and how he's trying to just retaliate against the tribes and waste a bunch of taxpayer money to make himself look good. Well, that's across the desk this week. and we're going to see you guys next week.